Hey YouTube, it's been a while. This is Yahoo Weeps. I'm going to make a video on science versus faith. Okay, let's define terms. Science, from my understanding, I'm not going to go into, there's a number of different dictionary definitions, but from my understanding, it's a systematic gaining of knowledge and information gained through observation of evidence and things you can observe. So that's science. So it's what can be observed um, from phenomena, natural phenomena of the world around you. So it's observation, information gained from observation and evidence. Okay, that's my understanding of science. Faith, I've heard people give the erroneous, ignorant definition of faith is believing in something without evidence. I mean that of course that's a very false. I mean, I guess some people can use that definition, but that's not really what faith is. But if they want to use that, they can. But it just kind of shows ignorance. Now, according to Scripture, according to if you go now, I know the Greek is just faith is what people believe. But if you look at the Hebrew, it's actually a firm trust. It's like a firmly affixing yourself to something in trust. So if you have faith in someone in the Hebraic understanding, you firmly trust in them. Now, I mean, some people can believe in things without having a reason for that trust. Yeah, I'm not believing things. Some people can trust someone or something without having any reason to. I mean, to me, I mean, I know that people can do that. Probably a lot of times people do, but that's probably the less wise way to trust. You trust when you have a reason to trust someone. Say people are married, husband and wife. Well, they would have a reason to trust their husband or wife. They years of experience maybe, or knowing the person very well, reciprocated relationship. I mean, reasons for this trust. So yeah, science is the observation, gaining of knowledge and information gained through observation of phenomena or data. And faith, really, it's the Hebraic understanding is firmly trusting someone or something, um, usually because you have reasons for it, but it's trust. So science, if you are uh, wanting to trust in science, then you're trusting with what you observe and what the knowledge and information you've gained through your own observation, study, and oh shoot, I cannot remember that other word. Um, I don't know, but yeah, that's really it. So what you observe and what you have able to conclude from your observations. Now, of course, your conclusions. Now, that faith, that thing I was talking about, that there's some faith right there because you're trusting in your own senses and you're trusting in your own thought processes. Now, if there's other people that say, whether they're scientists or someone else, and they have observed things and they've come to conclusions about things, if you believe what they say without having the observations yourself, then that's faith. You're trusting that person. Without having observations of yourself and without gaining that information and evidence for yourself, then that's where faith comes in. You're trusting that person, which you may have good reasons or not to trust them. The people that make refrigerators, I trust them with my food. My food that needs to be refrigerated, otherwise it's going to go bad. I trust them with the food. So it's not science on my part because I don't really know anything about refrigerators, but I know they keep food cool, so I'm trusting those people. I'm having faith in those people. And there are scientists that claim certain things, and I trust them. I'm not as good with math. Math has never been my forte, so I trust people that do mathematics to some degree in certain circumstances, at least. Now, say there are some things where it's really a matter of faith. Say time, for instance. You have memories, and may have good reasons for your memories. So you have good reasons for your understanding of the time that's gone on in your life. Anything further back in your life, you can look to various evidences of archaeology and whatnot, and historical artifacts, and they may give certain clues about what's gone on in history, but that becomes, the further back, as far as I'm concerned, the further back you go in time, the more and more it becomes a matter of faith, and sometimes very blind faith, because you really don't know. And I mean, so the archaeological evidences and historical evidences that are left behind, you have to take into consideration that sometimes people lie about certain things, about many things people lie about. Humanity is not always the most honest. So the further back in time you go, it becomes a matter of somewhat blind faith, but then even the things that they do have historical and archaeological evidences of, you have to take into consideration that people can lie about things, and even if they're not lying, they may just be incorrect about their observations or what they think, or memories or whatever. They may think, have a memory of something that they think happened and it didn't happen quite the way that they were thinking. That they would remember it. It's not a matter of lying as much as it is just a matter of being mistaken, and not being entirely accurate or correct about things, not being entirely reliable, which is pretty much all humanity does that. So time is just a huge, huge matter of faith, and sometimes blind faith. The further back in time you go, the more blind faith it becomes. And so the whole idea of millions or billions of years is so incredibly, incredibly, laughably blind faith. I mean, it's part of a religion, as far as I can tell. So yeah, so the whole like evolution thing happening, that's so funny to me. It's such a religion. It's so much a religion. The Earth being round, being spherical, is also part of a religion. That's faith. People have faith in that. They haven't observed it. They haven't observed the Earth being round. And then, of course, you have things like media, with TV, movies, magazines, pictures, all of which can be manipulated, and that takes a certain amount of faith also. Um, so then, if you have instances where that people can be lying, say pretty much anything having to do with government, like say NASA is like a government thing. I'm pretty sure, and would they lie? Yeah. Um, so yeah, that's science versus faith. Now, even when people do have science, they're still using an awful amount of faith. They're trusting in their own faculties. They're trusting in their senses. They're trusting in their thought capabilities. And if you look at people's thought capabilities, I mean, as far as being reliable, um, look at the world around you and look at what people do, and look at how reliable people are. I'm not saying all people are all unreliable all the time. I'm just saying, if people really were reliable, would they really be at each other's throats? Would the world be such a complete mess so much of the time? I I don't think so. And nobody really knows what they're doing anyways. So science versus faith. So really, yeah, personal observation versus trust. Now, of course, if someone claims to be a scientist, usually what their way of looking at things is trying to get the hard, concrete information, not settling for things that are just believed, like on faith. Especially the typical faith definition that a lot of people use, that ignorant definition. So if they're scientists, they go, no, I need to observe it, and I need the hard evidence and hard data. So of course, if they're any kind of decent scientist, they would expect other people to do that also. That they would expect everyone else. So if they say, well, I have observed this happening, they would expect other people not to believe them, for other people to go and observe it for themselves. And if they can't observe it or don't observe it, they would go, oh, well, there's no reason for you to believe me since you haven't observed it for yourself. If they were, a good scientist, that's what they would do. They wouldn't expect other people just to believe what they say. I mean, have blind faith in what they're saying. No, that's ridiculous. No, they would expect them to say, no, you're not going to believe me until you have observed it for yourself and you found out for yourself. Because I wouldn't expect you to just have blind faith, like I don't want to have blind faith. I mean, that would be a good scientist. And of course, if they're a decent person, they would think, what was I just thinking of? They wouldn't expect people just to believe what they say. I mean, if and they wouldn't. Oh yeah, that's what I was saying. If they were a decent person, they would understand that not everyone is built the same way, not everyone thinks the same way, not everyone has the same aptitudes, and they would say, okay, you may not be gifted with the same gifts that I'm gifted with, as far as thinking capabilities and whatnot. So, I proclaim this to be true from what I found out from my observation and studies and whatnot. But since you don't have the same aptitude as I do, I would totally respect you not believing what I say. I mean, that would be the natural, decent human being thing to do, right? Um, yeah, so if a scientist says this happened and this is what I've observed, um, you shouldn't believe me. You should observe it for yourself. And if you don't come to the same conclusions as I do, well, I can only respect you because you're finding out for yourself. And if you can't find it out for yourself, I still can only respect you. And if you don't agree with me, I can only respect you as a good scientist because you may not have the same thought processing type that I do. You may be gifted in different things. So really, it just becomes a matter of being a decent human being. As far as I can tell, that's really the thing. And understanding if people don't just believe you because you say so. You know? I mean, I hope nobody does that with me, just believing it because I say so. I would, I would much rather with pretty much anything I say. Find out for yourself, look at the facts, find out for yourself. Anyway, so yeah, that's science versus faith. Um, oh, and then of course there's the religion of what people call science, which isn't actually science. It's just a human religion looking to humanity for the source of solutions for things and the source of meaning and whatnot. So like evolution, the Earth being spherical, all of that is part of that religion. Because it's just that blind faith. Um, and if some people think that they have evidence and observation that backs that up, more power to them. Kind of. I mean, I don't buy any of that stuff. The evolution, the Earth being spherical. I just don't buy it. I don't. I don't. To me, there's not enough convincing evidence that I've come across. Anything convincing that I've observed. So, but yeah, science versus faith. Science versus faith. Who do you trust? Who do you trust? Yep. Yep. Okay, well, I hope this has been interesting at least. Please feel free to leave comments, feedback, share if you want to, like if you want to, don't like if you want to. Um, it's good not to see everybody again. It's not. Anyways, yeah. So thanks for watching. Have a very good day, night, evening, morning, whenever you watch this. Happy trails. Bon voyage. Arrivederci. Sayonara. Adieu. Shalom.